am hearing footsteps from my attic. I first heard the footsteps 3 nights after moving into the house. It was subtle at first, just a soft creak above my bedroom ceiling. I figured it was the house settling, or maybe an animal. Old houses like this always had quirks, didn't they? The place had been sitting vacant for years before I bought it, left to decay on the edge of town. The price had been suspiciously low, but I hadn't questioned it. I needed a fresh start, a place to be alone, and this house seemed perfect. But then, the footsteps got louder. By the 5th night, it was unmistakable, the sound of heavy, deliberate steps pacing back and forth above me. It always started around midnight. At first I lay in bed, frozen, listening as something moved through the attic. I told myself it had to be an animal, maybe a raccoon or a large rat, but these steps were too slow, too heavy. One night I worked up the courage to investigate, armed with a flashlight and a kitchen knife. I climbed the narrow staircase that led to the attic door. My breath came in shallow gasps as I placed my hand on the knob. I hesitated. The footsteps had stopped the moment I reached the top of the stairs. The silence was worse. I threw the door open, my flashlight slicing through the dust-filled air. The attic was empty. The only things inside were a few broken pieces of furniture, some old cardboard boxes, and a thick layer of dust. There was nowhere for anything, or anyone, to hide. Still, I searched every corner, checked for any holes in the walls, and even knocked on the wooden floorboards to see if there was a hidden compartment. Nothing. I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe the noise had come from outside, but deep down, I knew better. Something was up there. The next morning, I called the landlord. "Probably just an animal," he said dismissively. "I'll send someone to check it out." But no one ever came, and the footsteps didn't stop. If anything, they got bolder. A week later, I woke up in the middle of the night to a different sound. A soft scraping. It was coming from the attic door. I held my breath, listening as someone ran their fingernails across the wood, slow and deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then the doorknob rattled. I shot out of bed and grabbed the heaviest object I could find, a metal lamp, before running to the attic stairs. But by the time I got there, everything was quiet again. The doorknob was still. The attic door was locked. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe there was a draft causing the door to shift. Maybe the house was playing tricks on me. But the next morning, I found something that shattered those excuses. Faintly carved into the wood of the attic door, as if scratched by fingernails, were 3 words. "Let me out." I didn't sleep the next night. I stayed up with a baseball bat, my nerves frayed, waiting for something to happen. At exactly midnight, the footsteps started again. But this time they weren't just pacing. They were moving toward the attic door. Then, thud, a single heavy knock. I gripped the bat so hard my knuckles turned white. Another knock. Then, a third. The air felt thick, charged like the moment before a thunderstorm. My breathing was shallow, my heart hammering in my chest. Then, from the other side of the door, a voice. Faint, hoarse. "Please, help me." I ran. The next morning, I packed a bag and drove to the nearest motel. I didn't care how much it cost. I just needed to be away from that house. I spent the whole day researching, scouring the internet for anything about the property, and that's when I found it. An article dated 15 years ago. "Local man missing, search called off." The man had owned the house before me. His name was Thomas Grayson. He'd vanished, without a trace, no signs of forced entry. No struggle, just gone. His wife had insisted something took him, but no one believed her. She was eventually institutionalized after claiming he was trapped in the walls. I didn't want to go back. Every instinct in my body told me to leave and never return. But something in the back of my mind nagged at me, the voice. "Please, help me." I had to know the truth. That night, I returned. Armed with a crowbar and my flashlight, I made my way to the attic. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was the same as before, empty, dust-covered, silent. But then I noticed something. A section of the floor near the far wall looked wrong. The wood was slightly raised, uneven compared to the rest of the boards. I pried it open. The smell hit me first, rot decay, something foul and ancient out. And then I saw it. A skeleton, curled up inside the narrow makeshift coffin beneath the floorboards. The bones were fragile, brittle with age, but the skull still had the remnants of fingernail marks along the edges. Whoever this was had been buried alive. I called the police. They arrived in the early hours of the morning, their flashlights sweeping over the attic. They uncovered more than I expected. Scraps of old clothing, a rusted key, and most disturbingly, more carvings in the wood. The remains were confirmed to belong to Thomas Grayson. The authorities suspected foul play, but had no leads. The case had gone cold years ago. They ruled it an accident. But I knew better. The house is empty now. I moved out the next day, left everything behind. But sometimes in the quiet hours of the night, I swear I still hear it. That faint, desperate voice. Please, help me.